Hello! In this video we are going to practice arranging instructions in an experiment. To introduce this topic, I have this activity for you. Please match each of the following words with its corresponding picture. Look at the 5 pictures, take a moment, pause the video, complete the activity, and I'll see you in a moment, alright? Alright, thank you very much. What is this? This is borax, yes. And what are these? Pipe cleaners, yes. And what's this? Twine. And what's this? A jar, could be this jar or any other jar. And a container is a jar. Measuring cup, yes, a cup for measuring. All right, thank you very much for having completed this activity. Now let's read the following experiment. Actually, we're going to read half of the experiment. Materials: borax, found in the laundry section. Colorful pipe cleaners. Actually, something similar to these might work. You can experiment if you don't find them. You can experiment with different materials, but you can find this at the supermarket. Water, yes. Twine, any color, all right. The tools that you're going to need: wide mouth, jar, or glass. It could be a jar or a glass, anything that has a wide mouth, all right? Pencil or stick that is longer than the glass or jar's opening, because you're going to need to put it to hold something that is hanging from it. So if this is the length of the jar, the opening, the stick or the pencil has to be longer so that it can rest there, all right? And you also need imagination and adult supervision. All right, instructions. Bend a pipe cleaner in the shape you want to give to the ornament. So you're going to create some ornaments, and you can bend the pipe cleaner into a star or some hearts, any shape that you want your ornament to look like, because at the end that shape is going to be covered in crystals made with borax. All right. Fill the glass with water to 3/4 of its capacity. So 3/4. So you divide the glass into four parts, in quarters, and 3 of those will be covered with water. Right. Use a measuring cup to measure the amount of water used. All right. Boil the water. Right? You need adult supervision for that. Dissolve the borax in the hot water. So you dissolve it. All right? For each glass of water, use 3 tablespoons of borax. That's a lot of borax. So you know about how much you are going to need. You need some, at least 3 or 6. I would go for 6 tablespoons of borax when I need it, when I buy it. All right? Now, let me ask you these questions to make sure that you understood what we have discussed. How much water should be poured into the glasses? If we have a glass, 3/4, okay, of the capacity of the glass. How many tablespoons of borax should you use? Remember? 3 tablespoons per glass of water. All right, so a glass of water, a regular size glass of water. All right, now, as I told you in the past, in the experiments, we may have some measurements that may be different from the ones that we are accustomed to. We know about fractions, but we see them as something that we learned in math in elementary school or in high school. But in the English culture, in the English-speaking countries, fractions are used much more often, I would say, than in other cultures. And this is a representation of fractions in real life. Imagine that this picture represents a container. Let's think of a glass of water. If we divide that glass in 2 parts, in 2 halves, we have 1/2. This is half, yes, 1/2. This is 1/3. If we divide the glass into 3 parts and we take 1, that would be 1/3. We use ordinal numbers to describe that the number of parts into which something has been divided. This will be 2/3. This will be 1/4. You see, divided into 4 and just take 1. 2/4, which is actually 1/2. 1/5, you see, and this is very, very common. 3/8, which is 4/8 will be half, but 3/8 will be a little bit less than 1/2. All right, very good. Thank you very much for going over those measurements with me. And there are also something that we call tablespoon and teaspoon. As you can see, the small spoon will be the teaspoon and the large spoon will be tablespoon. Those are actually the measurements that we use in real life, and you may have those in your kitchen, all right? But they have come up with these measurements, measuring spoons, as you can see them here, and that would be the red one could be a tablespoon, the other one would be a teaspoon, and then they have half teaspoon, half tablespoon, etc. So I am not an expert in those measurements, but my wife keeps those in the kitchen and she knows what she uses them for. All right. So here is this picture shows you the correspondence between how much or how many tablespoons or teaspoons equal what. And a cup, for example, is divided in this case in a sixth of a cup would be 2 tablespoons. All right. Plus 2 teaspoons. That is actually math for me. And here, this is 1/8 of a cup, 1/4, and this is 1/3 of a cup. This is complex, but let me tell you, it is important in the English-speaking cultures, in the English-speaking countries' cultures. All right. Here you have some correspondence between what a teaspoon corresponds to in millimeters and in ounces. We use millimeters, so 1 teaspoon is about 4.9 millimeters, would be like 5, almost 5 for us, or 1.16 ounces. A tablespoon is 14.7 millimeters, or half an ounce, and a cup is 236.5 millimeters, or 8 ounces. All right. Actually, those measurements are very, very common and widely used, and I think because you are learning English to interact with people who are accustomed to these measurement units, you should make an effort to become familiar with those. All right? Thank you very much for doing so. With all that in mind, I would like to ask you to complete this activity. Carefully read the following instructions and arrange them in the correct order. In these instructions, they mention some measurements. But what is important is that you read the instructions carefully, because now we have the rest of the experiment. You're going to read it and see what makes sense. You are not going to try the experiment before knowing what the correct order of the instructions is. So it is very important that you read them and analyze them and arrange them so that you know in what order you're going to perform the experiment. All right? Pause my video, complete the activity, and I will see you in a moment. All right? Thank you. Thank you very much for pausing my video all these times and completing the activity. Here are the instructions in the correct order. All right? Let's read them together. Stir the water until all the powder has dissolved, or the powder remaining at the bottom can no longer dissolve, because some of it may not dissolve. All right, so you stir it, stir the water. Not with your fingers, with a spoon, the spoon that you use to measure the borax. Tie the shape you have made onto a string of twine. All right, so you made some stars with some snowflakes, and you tie them onto a string of twine. Hang it from the pencil, so you have a pencil on top of the container, and hang it from the pencil and dip it into the borax solution. All right. Make sure the pipe cleaner is fully submerged, all right? It is inside, the full shape is submerged into the water and does not touch the sides of the glass, all right? Because that will result in some parts of the twine of the pipe cleaner not to have the crystals that we want for the ornament, all right? Now, set the glass aside, means put the glass aside for 3 to 4 hours, not 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 3 hours, almost a whole afternoon, and wait for crystals to form. That's it. Actually, you may see some crystals forming in about 2 hours, but all the crystals that are going to cover your ornament are going to be there in a matter of 2 to 3 hours. All right? Thank you very much for reading these instructions with me and for having completed them or arranged them with me. Now I am going to pause my video so that you can listen to the native speaker and pronounce after him. All right? Go ahead. Pronounce, please.
Stir the water until the powder has dissolved or the powder remaining at the bottom can no longer dissolve. Tie the shape you have made onto a string of twine. Hang it from the pencil and dip it into the borax solution. Make sure that the pipe cleaner is fully submerged and does not touch the sides of the glass. Set the glass aside for 3 to 4 hours and wait for the crystals to form.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for having pronounced those. And remember that when we are reading this technical vocabulary that appears in experiments and these instructions, we have to be very careful as to what interpretation we need to apply for those measurements that they use, for example, and especially for understanding the instructions carefully so that we can perform the experiment safely and successfully. All right. Thank you very much for all your work, and I will see you in the next video.